All right, we're right at the top of the hour, and I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to our session today, preparing FMs for executive level conversations. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Randy Olson. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for the Professional Facility Management Institute. And at ProFM 3 years ago, we set off on a journey to do our part to positively impact and elevate the facility management profession. In that process, we sought out the best of the best to help us. And we put together just a tremendous group of board members that we call our Credential Commission to help us define the path forward for the ProFM. And we were honored to have Stan Mitchell join that group. And I think there's just a handful of people in this world that you could say have had more positive impact on Stan Mitchell on the facility management profession. So we're thrilled to have him join us. We're thrilled to have him on the team. We're proud to call him friend of the family. So Stan, with that, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, provide a brief background, and then we'll dig into the topic at hand.
Okay, thank you very much, Randy. First of all, for the kind invitation to share my words of wisdom, as they might say. And I'm not sure about the best of the best. I'm just an FM guy and been around probably longer than most, and maybe that helps a little bit in terms of experiences as this discipline of ours has evolved. I'm the CEO of Key Facilities Management, which is the longest established FM company in the UK. And but we're a relatively small organization in that we are very much focused on what we call true FM, not to be mixed up with some of the other kind of contract management activities that the major players, if you like, tend to be more focused on. So we're very much a niche player. We've been around for a long time. For my sins, I helped establish the British Institute of Facilities Management. I've been involved with IFMA for many, many years, and several other associations around the world where I've assisted them to try and emerge and coordinate and support people who are out there in the field doing the hard job of delivering FM. That subsequently led for me on to getting involved in development of standards in facilities management, because I realized that if we ever wanted to become recognized as a professional discipline, international standards that are recognized were a prerequisite to trying to achieve that. So yeah, been around for a long time, found out how to do it well and found out how to do it not so well. So I'm very thankful to ProFM to give me a platform to try and share some of those experiences.
Very good, Stan. Welcome, and thanks again for joining us today. So at the very basic level, communication is defined as the process of conveying information and ideas. So it involves the activities of effectively transferring thoughts and expressing ideas with others, listening, and addressing the concerns of others, and creating an atmosphere in which timely and high quality information flows among all stakeholders. So Stan, you and I participated in a panel discussion in May where our colleague Stormy Friday described the environment that we're in today as the new frontier, as opposed to the new normal. And I think as facility managers, there's no better group to help shepherd us through that new frontier. And communication becomes the effective way to do that. So communication really is a thread that weaves itself through everything a facility manager knows, says, and does. And if you think about it, technical skills are not enough today for a facility manager. A fundamental part of communicating is to be able to communicate both up and down the chain. So communicate with the folks that work for you, communicate with the folks that you serve. But then the topic that we're going to tackle today is to be able to communicate with executive level folks and be able to convey those ideas in any form that you've that you're able to communicate them within. So with that, I think it'd be a good place to start, Stan. So why is it important for facilities managers to have effective communication skills?
My initial comment is it's not important at all. It's essential. I've often been asked what do I think what the top 3 skills are for a facilities manager, and my answer is communication, communication, communication. The reality is some of us come into this discipline from technical backgrounds, architecture, surveying, engineering, whatever it might be. It doesn't really matter. We bring some of the technical skills that are absolutely essential within an FM context. But if we don't carry that communication skill, we're pushing water uphill. Particularly when you start to talk about the importance of communicating to the C-suite, to the senior management in an organization. I often used to talk about one of the skills of FM is to be a juggler. And it's to juggle the information that you get, usually from a kind of technical problem background, and how to juggle that into the language of the senior management. And I've also said that we need to be multilingual. And it's not about, when I say that, it's not about Spanish to English to French. It's about the language of that senior management team. So when you want to go and convince the finance director about this fantastic initiative that we want to do from an FM perspective that's going to bring all these efficiencies and effectiveness, don't talk FM, don't talk the technical speak that we might be used to and talk about amongst ourselves. You have to use the language of cost per widget, or saving on overhead, or whatever it is, to the finance director. So if you're then going to talk to the manufacturing operations director, you talk about the widgets off the line and the impact that we can have on it, that this initiative might bring. So we have to be conscious of being multilingual and talking their language, not ours. They're not interested in our language. That's for us to manage with our teams and our supply chain and the professionals that we need to support us. So first and foremost, it's about communication in the right language. Secondly, one of the secrets that I discovered that's very, very powerful, when you're going and lobbying that group of senior managers or that board of directors, and by the way, you need to be a bit political. Don't walk into a board meeting and spring it on them. Go and do your rounds, talk to them before that important meeting, get them on your side if you can. And one of the smartest ways that I found to achieve that objective is ask them for help. Ask them, how should I best communicate this to the rest of your board members? It's very difficult for people, when you ask them for help, to say no. So asking for help, listening, trying to make sure the language that you use is appropriate. And bear in mind that in facilities management, we are not important to the core business until they realize we're important. And right now, with us all dealing with COVID, we are important. And I see the COVID, and whilst it's extremely negative for us all, it's a fantastic opportunity for FM to demonstrate our professionalism, to demonstrate our communication skills, to inform and convince the senior management team that we're in control, we're taking the right actions that we need to take, but then also to communicate for the people who want to enter the workplace again, that we've done the job that we've done, that the place is safe, that we're putting the signage up to help. It's all about communication. And as you said, our business is all about people. So it's different communication for our supply chain, for the communities that surround the facilities that we manage, and most especially for our senior management, that we can convince them about what we're doing and how we're adding the value.
Excellent. So let's dial in on that COVID-19 topic a little bit more, Stan. So you work with organizations literally all over the world. So COVID-19 has really amplified the need for communication. Is that your perspective?
Oh, 100%. There's so much misinformation going around in terms of COVID. I've been asked that because we are a company that works internationally across many countries, I've been asked that what do we find as the biggest challenge? And the biggest challenge is the goalposts keep moving all the time. The opinions of what we should do today will change tomorrow. The opinions of what the right approach is differs from country to country. It differs from region to region, and it differs from company to company. So we are, and certainly some of our customers are very much now acknowledging that in that sense, we are the professionals. They're expecting us to be informed, to be up to date, to find out what our colleagues are doing in one part of the world that seems to be working where we're not doing it in another part of the world. This is a fantastic opportunity for us as a community to collaborate, to communicate with each other so that we can bring the proper communication back to the organizations and the senior management teams that we serve.
Excellent. And we greatly appreciate the reference to American football in there with the goalposts, Stan. So you talked a little bit about getting prepared and gathering the right information, but let's drill into that a little bit more. So how do you effectively get that executive level attention when you need to get it?
Well, what are their problems, not what are our problems? Whatever their problem is, we can do something to help. I realized that when I worked as an FM in manufacturing. Then manufacturing has a lot of diverse activities that all need to come together to put the product out the door. But the different teams involved in all of that, you can help them all. It's sometimes just a good idea to go and ask them. Very often we tend not to do that. You know, we're the FM team. We have all the answers, maybe to FM, and maybe we do and maybe we don't. But going and asking them, not on this occasion, not for help, but how can we help? So how can we make that process operate a little bit better? How can we go and impact the energy consumption associated with something? How can we make the logistics between the people that work within a team happen? How can we make the workplace more comfortable and productive based on what the people do there, rather than based on a simple model that keeps our life simple? So it is all about that engagement. It is all about that communication. And those of us, and I include myself in this, my background's in engineering. Those of us that come from a technical discipline, sometimes that's not part of our makeup. And that people interface, that interpersonal communications is something that some of us need to learn. And hopefully not the hard way, but sometimes that's the way it works out. So being proactive, but not sitting back in our fiefdom and waiting until people come to us with the problems to solve. Go out and solve the problem before it becomes one.
Yeah, excellent. So I should mention that as we're going through the session today, there's a chat window available to you. Please ask questions as we go, and we'll address as many of those as we can, and we'll follow up with the ones that we can't. So we did receive a question. I'm going to read this to you, Stan, and have you talk to this topic. So the question is, while we're seeing increased engagement with FMs being invited to contribute to the discussions for the pandemic at executive level, do we think this will lead to wider engagement where executive boards understand the need to include FM in their future planning and demand for property, whether it be to increase or decrease the portfolio? I think that's an excellent question, and I'll have you speak to that.
Probably my quick answer to that is that depends on us. That depends on how we respond to this pandemic, and that's why I think it's a great opportunity. If we demonstrate our professional, if we demonstrate our planning and preparedness to react to these surprises that are a constant at the moment for us all, then that demonstrates and reflects upon us as individuals as well as our discipline. I always hear people that say to me, FM should sit on the board. I actually don't subscribe to that at all. I think FM should sit on the board when FM has a strategic role to play on the board. I believe FM can demonstrate that it has those strategic skills and competencies in terms of planning and design, etc. And when the opportunity exists, and today it happens to be an opportunity called COVID-19, we've got to be ready to step forward and grab that opportunity. So I'm all in favour in FM having a permanent seat in the board, but we have to earn it. It doesn't come just because we think it's a good idea. When we are seen and acknowledged to be critical to the organisation, we will get that seat on the board.
Excellent. I misspoke relating the questions. Chat is actually disabled, so you should use the Q&A link at the bottom for any questions. We did receive a question regarding access to the recording after the session. Yes, we will certainly make that available to you after the session. So let's talk a little bit, Stan, about maybe some of the pitfalls that you should avoid when you're talking to senior management. You've touched on a little bit of this, but let's drill down that a little bit more.
Yeah, the pitfalls are, we're all important. We are strategic because I'm telling you so. The pitfalls are, do your homework. People that sit in a senior management team are there for a good reason. They're usually pretty competent individuals. They're usually specialists in their own domain. Be communicating to them as a function that wants to support and doesn't have all the answers. I passionately believe nobody in FM has all the answers to anything. So not only do we need to collaborate and learn from ourselves, we definitely need to take that approach when we go and approach senior managers in terms of any dialogue within the organization. So a bit of modesty is always a good way to go in there. Leave the arrogance at the door. You might need some of that when you're talking to your team or your subcontractors, but it's usually not a good idea when you try and get senior managers in an organization on side. The last thing I would say, and I found this a very, very effective strategy. Before I go and talk to a senior management team or senior managers in an organization, I have to figure out in my own head what's in it for them. Not what's in it for me, not what my agenda is. How can I go there and convince them this is a win for them as well as a win for me? And if you don't have that clear in your head, you just might miss the target.
Yeah, Stan, I've heard you speak in the past about facility managers really needing to be salespeople and really, understanding, concerns and opportunities and be able to present effective ideas. So maybe talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the very first talk I made at an FM conference, which was the first FM conference in Europe, I did a presentation that I named Another Hat to Wear. Very few of us in FM see ourselves as having to have any skills of sales and marketing. It's essential. The marketing, don't expect people to appreciate what we do and how we do it, because if we don't tell them, they're not going to know. They assume the lights will be on every day when they walk into the workplace. They assume the heating or the cooling will work. But try and identify with limits that what we do is important. But again, try and do it in their language, not ours. I worked for a manufacturing organization that was talking about the number of piece parts that went into a computer. It was actually electronics manufacturing. And so we did an exercise about how many piece parts go into a building and building services. And we put ourselves in a different perception to that organization, because we're managing 10 times those piece parts to make sure that they're available as and when they're needed, etc., etc.
Excellent.
So it's about, again, thinking about how we market. And then if you want to sell, go and take a course if you need to on sales techniques, because you will use them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a couple of good questions. I'm gonna read this first one to you. So, do you think FMs have to do a better job of communicating to the C-suite of their expanded role? HR, FM, IT integration. So really, that it also encompasses that soft skill collaboration, right?
Absolutely. I do believe there will be a coming together of the support functions like HR and ICT, etc. And I think I hope the day might come where FM actually includes all of those disciplines, because facilities management is the generalist, if you like, not the specialist. And there's those different specialist activities that are a part of that support service to the organization. So yes, I do believe that that's the way it potentially will go. And I've lost track now. I'm not sure I've answered the question.
Yeah, so it's really around kind of doing a better job of communicating to the C-suite, and I think you touched on that, and being able to effectively collaborate. As you see in your business, the lines get blurred between IT and FM, and who has responsibility for what. And I think the pandemic has really further blurred those lines and forced FMs to better communicate and better collaborate with other departments. Would you agree?
Listen, we can all of us, every single one of us can improve communication. My wife tells me that all the time. And it's no different when we're trying to do our job. We are the single most part of any organization that communicates in every single direction. When sustainability became in vogue, I used to talk to organizations about which part of your organization is best equipped to go and own that agenda. And it has to be FM, because we touch every part of it. We touch the waste, we touch the energy, we touch the space, which is the biggest cost to any organization. And that's going to change because of what's going on in COVID-19 and the pandemic right now. So how we utilize space, how we keep people safe within that space, etc., etc. So 100%, we will always be able to improve our communication.
Yeah, and then there's a great question. So how do you handle situations where FM's goals may not align with senior management's or a finance department's budget and other objectives?
Okay. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty stuff. Good question. I remember doing an exercise within a client organization where we had a very good set of KPIs, PIs, SLAs within the existing FM function. And what I did was I did an exercise of getting the KPIs and the goals and objectives of the organization. And we all got the FM team in a room and said, how does each one of our objectives align with the organizational objectives? And we eventually found quite a few that we couldn't connect. Say, well, why are they our objectives then? We should always be business driven. Every single time, if we're doing something in FM that's purely about making it better for FM, step back and think about that carefully, because then when we're called to account about the efficiency of who we are and what we do, we might be found wanting. So that's a great question, and I think absolutely relevant to everybody in the FM space.
And then on those lines, another question: is it absolutely necessary to do ROI every time we speak to upper management?
Yes, it probably is, but ROI means different things to different people. If you're going to talk to HR about ROI, it's not about financials. It's about how are we going to make a better environment for people? How are we going to reduce sick building syndrome? How are we going to, particularly today, how are we going to deal with mental health and how that might affect people's ability to come back to whatever the norm is going to be in the future, and get back into the workplace and interact with their colleagues. So ROI is relevant in the right language, and we need to get our head around that first of all, and then we need to be able to try and articulate that appropriately. And that goes back to my early comments about we need to speak the right language. And if we can't demonstrate an ROI, maybe we're not focused in the right area.
Yeah, excellent. So you talked a little bit earlier about sales, being a salesperson and being able to confidently go present to upper management, understand their needs and wants. But how can you help instill that confidence in the FM team as they face those conversations with the C-suite?
Okay. First of all, leadership. If you're a facilities manager with a team, be a leader, be the right kind of leader. That's kind of important. Support your team to develop them. Think about training and education, and we're here talking on a platform about Pro FM, which is that is what it's all about. Give people the knowledge, give them the support in terms of making them your replacement. I've got a great principle in what I do, and I'm always looking for the guy that's going to replace me in whatever my role is. Now, that's an easy thing to say and sometimes a very difficult thing to do. But I'm not one of these guys, and I don't believe in FM we should be, that wants to keep control of the knowledge and the information because that's deemed to be powerful. It's 10 times more powerful to do the opposite, in my opinion. Motivate people to do you out of a job. They probably won't, at least for a period of time, but you never know. But make them totally motivated, give them ownership, empower them to. I worked for a company many years ago who encouraged people to take risks. Now, that might not be something that computes very well to most of the audience here, but they qualified that. Yeah, go and take risks. Go and take a risk in who you talk to and what you propose and how you interface, etc. Don't take a risk that's going to put the organization at risk. But go and take risks in terms of your role and expanding your role and stepping into areas of activities that's not your comfort zone. That's the kind of risks we're talking about. And that helps people grow and develop, and that helps a team as well, a team to gel, and hopefully that team then as a unit starts to have a much bigger profile inside their organization. And it's that profile that then gives you the platform to be the salesman and influence people that what we do is not just important, it's strategically important to the well-being of the organization and every aspect of it.
Well, that's excellent, and we're coming up on the half hour. And as I talked about with you in preparation of this, we should have scheduled a lot more time. So we may have round two in this discussion. But I want to just touch briefly on, Stan talked earlier about opportunity, and we're in a real opportunity as FMs to be leaders and help guide our organizations through the current situation we're in and lead us through. We set out 3 years ago to put together this body of knowledge that's in front of you with individuals that we're so pleased to be involved with, like Stan Mitchell, which this body of knowledge in this training program defines all the technical skills needed of the FM, but it also outlines those soft skills and those threads that go through every technical thing that needs to happen on the facility management side. So communication, sustainability, quality, innovation, and collaboration. And we've touched on, primarily communication today, touched a little bit on collaboration, but this is available to you. There's more information about this on our website on profmi.org and the BOK. And I would like to entertain any additional questions that we may have. We are at the half hour. We want to be certainly cognizant of everybody's time. If you've submitted a question, we've not answered that, we will follow up directly with you. We are pleased that we had the opportunity to do this today. Stan, thank you so much.
Randy, I want to say one thing about
sure.
the body of knowledge, if I may. My apologies if I'm holding people back. It's no mistake that communication is the first thing on that list on the left-hand side. And there may be people who are relatively new to FM and look at that list on that body of knowledge, and it's a bit overwhelming. I'm often asked what I think's the key skill in FM. And my answer is it's about knowing what you are, but more importantly, knowing what you're not. You don't need to be an expert in everything on that body of knowledge. What you do need to know is where you draw your personal line and where you reach out and get the right technical support. So that's a big list, and that is FM for me, that body of knowledge. And we need to know something about every one of those disciplines, but we don't need to be experts in them all. And that's important for people to not be overwhelmed by that body of knowledge, but to acknowledge it, find out where your sweet spots are, play on those strengths, and then just make sure you understand the responsibilities in the other areas that might not be your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's excellent. I appreciate that. And I may just, if we have just a couple minutes, these are all just pats on the back. So everybody's saying thank you for a great presentation. Again, if you have questions, our contact information is now on the screen for you to jot that down. Please feel free to reach out to either Stan or I with any additional questions. We wish you a good day. We wish everybody the best of health and happiness. And we look forward to our next discussion. Thanks so much, Stan.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending. Keep safe.
Keep safe.